Hello and welcome. You're listening to Start Again with Shauna Lee, the place where you will be reminded that it's never too late and you're never too old to do the damn thing. So stick around if you're ready to vibe higher and be inspired to chase your dreams. Together, we will uncover your soul's truest desires. Now, if you're ready, let's get started. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another Start Again with Shauna Lee episode. Today, I'm going to introduce you to one of my dear friends, Kitt. She and I have known each other for many, many years. We are no longer counting how many years that we have known each other for. And she has navigated becoming an entrepreneur and her own spiritual journey in such a beautiful and authentic way that I am super excited to introduce you guys to her today. And most recently, she has become master certified in Reiki. Now, I understand what Reiki is. I don't understand what her title is or whatever the hell we're calling it. So I'm going to let her jump in and tell you what her title is. Kitt, thank you for joining me today. So will you please give my listeners a quick little brief intro to who you are, what your correct title is, and how you identify as a Start Again queen, and we will let the conversation go from there.
All right. Let's see. I am an herbalist, a Reiki master, an aromatherapist. I also just recently got my certification in permaculture design, which is not, I don't even know that I've mentioned that to you necessarily.
That's a new one. What
it is a
that?
new one. So permaculture, I actually wrote myself a little note because it's hard to find an elevator pitch for it, but permaculture is basically using naturally occurring design systems and flows and applying them to landscapes to create a more self-sustaining environment. So like if you're planting a garden or wanting to create a food forest, using naturally occurring systems as much as possible so that it's self-sustaining, so that you don't have to go in and influence it and try to amend the soil necessarily or bring in water where there's not naturally water, and using existing structures, existing systems, observing nature. It's more of a holistic way of farming and
Gotcha.
Producing medicine. So I got into it initially because I got into herbalism and my idea was to create a food forest out here where I live and grow my own medicine. I'm still in that process and creating that space. So that's definitely something I'm going to be taking another class specifically for herbalists in October, actually.
Lots of classes, lots of certifications. So definitely you are well attuned to starting new things.
I am. So that brings you back to the question of how to identify as a Start Again queen.
Yes.
Yeah, definitely. So in 2018, I have always worked in administrative fields as an office manager, as an executive assistant, HR manager, just different administrative fields within companies. And I always felt like that was the responsible thing to do, right? Was you needed to have a job with a strong employer and, build your 401k and do all of those things.
Traditional path.
But the traditional path was kind of falling apart. And I kept trying to get myself back onto it and just was really in this mindset of I need to find a steady, stable, forever job, someplace that I wanted to stay and grow with the company and retire from that company. I was looking for that traditional idea. And in 2018, I was working for a tech startup as their executive assistant / HR manager. It was a small enough company that I was wearing a lot of administrative hats.
Yeah.
Which was horrible.
Those are two very different roles.
very different roles. And it was really, really tough. And the company was based in Nashville. So they decided to move all of their administrative positions to Nashville and started creating more of a traditional business culture. Originally, all the employees were based all over the country and would fly in for, quarterly meetings or what have you, but most everything was done via Zoom and remote. So they moved everything to Nashville, and I found myself out of a job pretty suddenly, and it really panicked me because I really thought that was my job. I was looking for something that I could do remotely. We had just recently moved into my family home, and we're taking care of my uncle who has Down syndrome and dementia. He's 64. So he needed a lot of care at home. So me not being able to go out and work outside of the house was really tough. And around that time, I had an acquaintance of mine who suffered a massive heart attack, and he's older, didn't have children, and didn't really have very much family around him. So he was looking for someone to kind of just come in and help bring him home from the hospital and help him get settled. And he didn't know exactly what he needed, but I thought, hey, I can do that while I'm trying to figure out my next forever home. And that was 2 years ago. The pandemic hit, and for someone who has had a massive heart attack and he has some other health conditions that made it really scary for him to leave the house. I just slowly started taking over more and more responsibility for him, and I ended up staying with him. Or I've stayed with him this whole time. He's going strong, but he still has a lot of those same challenges. He can't really drive anymore, so I take him to all of his appointments. I ended up just kind of becoming his personal assistant, but it wasn't full time. And so I found myself making a full-time salary, which I was very thankful for and did not expect, but having all this time on my hands. And so I just kind of, for the first time in my life, I was able to sit back and go, what do I want to do? And so I just started. That's literally how I started. I was like, well, I'm on this property. I'm going to be home more. Maybe I need to learn how to do stuff with it. My grandmother used to plant gardens and vegetables and flowers, and I didn't know the first thing. So I was like, well, I might as well take a class. And that's how I took the permaculture class. And then that led me to, I guess herbalism first, and then the permaculture class. And then I took a mediumship class for psychic mediumship.
Yes, now I know all about this, but why don't you tell everyone else about what this class and this experience was like?
The author, Jen Passeloff, I read her book On Being, and I actually, when she came to Austin, I went and had listened to her speak and had her sign a copy of my book that I had. And she does this thing on Instagram where she allows for Instagram lives. She just will come on live and just say, hey, if you want to talk with me, call. And this woman ended up calling from Scotland. Her name was Linda Hughes, and she was a medium. Totally flipped Jen out. Jen was like, oh, no, I don't know if I can talk. I don't want to talk about this. I don't want to talk about this. But Linda was just so funny and down to earth and easygoing. And I was like, well, I think I might like to have a session with her. And so I booked one, and it was an amazing experience. I love Linda. She's amazing. But during the course of our conversations, she goes, I really get the sense that you have a little bit of intuitive abilities as well. I'm doing this mediumship class. What would, if you're interested, you're welcome to join. It's for all levels, all levels of experience. And so I signed up, and it was was a blast. I mean, she's just so, if anyone has ever been curious and wants to know more information, but is kind of scared, she makes it so easy and so digestible. And
That's
so
awesome.
she takes all the fear out of it and just makes it like, just this normal, natural experience. So I learned a lot from her. I can't say that I necessarily have more or less intuitive ability. I definitely would not call myself a medium on the level that she is. But I do
Maybe not
think
on
that
the level that she is, but I can talk to your intuitiveness from the Reiki session that you and I did together, which I definitely want to talk about Reiki. Because you channeled I don't know that that's the right word, but you were intuitively hearing from my paternal grandmother during our session, which it's funny because I feel like your journey when you were like this one thing, I was in this open place in my life, and this one question led me to this one class, led me to the next thing. Like I feel like the universe always unfolds our path for us in that way. And everyone can kind of say, oh, well, I started with this one little tiny baby step, and then that led to this. For me, it was feng shui that led to my being open to this concept of energy, that led me to crystals, that led me to a psychic, that led me to energy healers. And it was just like this one step at a time as the path unfolded. I couldn't have told you where I was going, where the path was leading, but I could tell you what the very next step was. And I think that's really cool when I hear other people's journey kind of be the same way. But Reiki specifically, that is one of the reasons why I was so excited to have you come on this podcast, was to talk about Reiki specifically because you are participating in the retreats with me. And so you are part of my team of, I feel like I'm the coordinator, and I've really just coordinated all these amazing people to introduce my retreat attendees to. I'm like the cruise ship director of spirituality. Like, I'm not the one who's intuitive or helping with energy clearings or any of those things, but you are. And I want you to talk to people because I think that a lot of my listeners probably are not familiar with what Reiki is to begin with, and why they should care and why it would be helpful to them.
Okay. Thank you for
So let's start there.
Bringing me back in.
Yeah,
I could go in a million different directions. So Reiki is really just the universal. Reiki means universal life force, right? And it's a Japanese-based healing system. We got to be careful about using the word healing and healer, because I'm not a medical doctor, and Reiki practitioners don't practice medicine, they don't diagnose. So we, technically we don't heal anything. What it is learning how to basically open yourself up to the universal energy. Yep. And allow that universal energy to flow through you, through your hands, and into the person that you're working with or working on. I like to say working with, because it really is a meeting of, usually it's someone who recognizes that maybe they have a spiritual block or an emotional block, but they don't know how to overcome that. And Reiki is a good tool to use to help you move through whatever that is blocking you, that's keeping you from letting go of something. Is how I view it. So my mindset and my real passion is to work with people who are dealing with traumatic situations, whether it's current, because we got a lot of shit going on, or whether it's something in the past. Reiki also is not constrained by time or space, right? Because it's energy. Energy is everywhere. So you can, and I have used Reiki to heal things that have happened to me in my past, and have used it for people to heal things, situations that have happened in the past. And I guess healing is probably not the right word. because you're not changing what happened, right? You're not changing
No,
the outcome.
for me, I can talk to kind of, during our session, because you've known me for so long, you were able to kind of, you said it feels very old. It was almost like you were just clearing some stagnant energy that had been stuck. But in my case, it had been stuck for a very long time. And you said, no, this feels like, and you used his name, but husband number one, like it feels like this long ago. And so for me, it didn't feel like healing necessarily. It felt like a letting go and a releasing of that old energy that had been just kind of hanging around for a long time.
Right. And it can cloud the way that you interact with them now. And you don't even
Yep.
realize it, right? So a lot of times it's, just that release all of a sudden takes away some of that old anger, some of that old resentment. It just I think the act of you allowing a practitioner, opening yourself up to a practitioner to bring healing energy into you, just naturally opens you up to be willing to release that. And that's a lot of people just really need that permission to just let it go,
Yeah.
and consciously make that decision. So that's a lot of what Reiki is, it can also be used on pets, on land. I have a friend in California. I sent Reiki to her property.
Oh, cool. I never considered doing that, but I guess it's similar to feng shui and the energy in your home. It's all chi. Everything's energy. It all comes back to the same thing. Yeah,
that's right.
Well, okay. So if you were to look at your story kind of holistically at this point, what do you think is the most inspiring part of your story?
The most inspiring part of my story is following the thread, I think. Hearing Linda talk with Jen Pasloff and making the decision to pay attention to that, some reason that pinged, right? That conversation pinged something for me, and being willing to make that appointment with Linda, even though I didn't really know why or what I was going to be talking with her about. Being willing to sign up for the permaculture class, knowing nothing about planting anything, and being known within my family as having a black thumb, that opened up a whole world of community that I didn't even know I was missing, right? So that's, and the same thing with Reiki. The reason I was looking at Reiki was because I was looking for a mentor, somebody that I could work with here in Austin, because Linda was in Scotland, and somebody that I could just meet with on a regular basis and kind of, be in the same community that I was in. And Reiki kept popping up in all these different bios. And then, how social media works. All of a sudden I was getting all of these notices for all of these classes in my area. And I intuitively listened to that, and so I think that's been my biggest, it's a little inspiration, but for me, it was big, being, listening to that intuitive thought and following through on it, and not just going, I'll do it later, like going, okay, no, there's a reason this keeps popping up for me. I need to pay attention and doing it. Whether I really knew for sure why I was doing it at the time. I certainly, when I signed up for Reiki, I had zero plan to become a Reiki master or teacher. And here I am.
And here you are. Yeah. I love how that happens. Following the thread is a good way to put it too, because it is a little tiny whisper or a nudge or a just almost thought in the back of your mind. It's just so subtle in the beginning. And the more I think that we start paying attention to the whispers, I feel like the more in tuned we get to our own intuition, right? And then it becomes very clear over the course of time. I feel like it gets clearer and clearer to me what is my intuition and what is just, I wonder about XYZ. Yeah, I think the way you put it is amazing. So so inspiring was one way to look at it, but then also on the flip side, what do you think is the most surprising challenge you faced and how did you overcome it?
I've heard you talk about this before. Imposter syndrome,
Yes.
letting imposter syndrome take over and convince me in my head that I don't know what I'm talking about. I'm not good enough. I don't know, I don't have enough information. I don't have I shouldn't try. What makes me special? And, those nagging questions that
The
if we
lies, the
let,
lies.
they're such lies. It's such a lie. And I know that you've talked about that before. So it's just overcoming the imposter syndrome. I'm a natural introvert. And so it's really hard for me to put myself out there anyway.
Yeah.
And then to have that horrible asshole in the back of your head just telling you you don't know what you're doing, you don't know how this works. Well, the truth is that nobody does, right? And you don't know until you try.
Absolutely.
And sometimes what you perceive to be your biggest mistake is actually opening the door to an amazing opportunity.
Oh my gosh.
And so just not giving into the negative and always trying to flip things and turn it into a positive.
And I think there's a misconception that people who have gone on to do these amazing things, that they somehow did it without fear, or somehow fear wasn't included. Someone commented the other day on one of my posts and said, "Woman, you are fearless," or something along those lines. And I almost hysterically guffawed, laughed, like, are you kidding me? I have so many fears. Like every day I wake up and there's some new stupid fear that is popped up, and imposter syndrome is just all of that, just lies, because our brain is wired to keep us safe and to keep us. And so venturing out and taking risks is not safe. So we should certainly not do that. And that's where all those imposter syndrome lies, I think, come in. But yeah, I think when I think about how you overcome that imposter syndrome, it's really just, you do it anyways. You do it scared. You do it without knowing all the answers, and you just do it. Unfortunately, Nike came up with a great phrase, like so true.
Damn you, Nike. Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things where it's like, I don't know where this is going to lead. I don't know, my husband, are you going to be taking another class? I'm like, I don't know. Maybe. I'm doing a breathwork class. I'm doing a yin yoga class. I'm doing a teaching meditation class. I'm now taking this medicine herb garden class. I mean,
I love it.
It might lead me somewhere completely different. I don't know.
And I think for me, I was always, the first part of my life, I was always looking at what do I need to do to be educated enough, to be prepared enough, to have the right certifications, the right training, so that people would then trust me. Right. And what I discovered in my own journey over the last couple of years was, it's about the journey. It's not about where the hell you're going. You're going to get there. It's going to be great, but have some fucking fun along the way and do what is lighting you up and follow your natural sense of curiosity and passion, only because it's making your journey more fun. And that literally is it. I had this whole
absolutely right
dark night of the soul situation happening at the beginning of the year that I've talked a little bit about, but it really is what catapulted me into hosting these retreats, because I was in such a dark place that I needed a retreat. I needed a place to go hide away from the quote unquote real world. And in all of this, I, had some discoveries, and kind of disheartening about humanity discoveries, if I'm being honest. But one of those metaphors that came to me was, it really just allowed me to let go of a lot of judgment for me and other people when I started using this metaphor. And that is that we are all like this whole human life that we're on, it's just a roller coaster ride. It is just an amusement park ride. And you get to decide if that ride is fun. You get to decide if you're going to be smirking and growling and grimacing the whole time, or if like it's your fucking ride. Like how do you want it to go? And it came back to this, like, my answer to everything now is it doesn't matter.
Right.
Do you want to take a class? Do you not want to take a class? Do you want to go to college? Do you not want to go to college? It doesn't matter. Literally make your ride what you want it to be.
That's right.
And so what the most incredible part for me to come away from that metaphor was my ability to look at someone else and think, oh my God, I can totally help them. Oh, I wish they would take my advice. Or have they ever thought of this way? And for me to be like, you know what? She's on her own ride. That is her roller coaster ride. And she can do it whatever way she wants to. And it really let me take my hands off the wheel of trying to control so many different things and trying to help all the people. Like I want to help the world. Well, no shit. Most people do, but they don't all want your help. So for me to be able to sit back and be like, it's her roller coaster ride has been super helpful for me. And I don't even know where that story came from, but here we are.
That's what that was the catalyst and the birth of the retreats, right? Was we came together. You brought some really amazing people together to create this environment where we are helping, I've kind of looked at it as our goal is to help people open up and find their own passion, right?
Yep.
Find their own, because it's funny that you and I were going through the same thing at almost the same time. We weren't talking to each other.
No, we had no idea. It
wasn't until afterwards, but I was doing the same thing. And I kept telling my husband, I just want to go sit somewhere and stare at water. I just want to go sit and stare at water. And I ended up doing that. I spent 3 days by myself in Canyon Lake, just sitting on the dock, on a boat dock that wasn't even really that pretty, just watching the water and listening to it. And that's just what I needed.
There was something about that phase for me too, where I was drawn to water, which is why it was so important for me to find a swimming pool or a body of water in whatever location I needed an element of water to be kind of tied into that experience for people. Because for me, it's kind of twofold. I want people to have the retreat to be able to refocus and prioritize and connect with themselves, essentially. And I think in that there is natural healing that comes out of that experience. But obviously, we're pulling in some really specific healing modalities to kind of help facilitate that. But I think you hit the nail on the head. Like you've been amazing at being able to understand and picture my vision, because it really is about helping people find their passion and finding their purpose in life. Because what I have discovered about depression is that the opposite is not happiness. It's not that we just need depressed people to be happy. It's that they need purpose and they need a reason to continue living is really what it comes down to. And that comes down to being fulfilled as a human being and feeling like your life means something. And I think finding your purpose and finding your passion is the way to do that. And so,
well, and allowing, I think as women too, allowing ourselves the space to even
absolutely
have the time to think about those ideas and I mean, for me, 2018 was the first, 2019 really was the first opportunity I had since, my early 20s to be able to go, what do I want?
Yeah.
I hadn't even given myself the opportunity. So how am I going to find my passion and create magic in my life if I'm not allowing myself to even the time to ask the question, Absolutely. So I think, that's one of the things about this retreat. And one of the things that I'm drawn to Reiki for is providing opportunities for people to take a step back, take a breath,
yes.
and just go, okay, what do I need? not just, you have to figure out what you need first in order to be able to go, okay, now how do I create passion? How do I create beauty? What does that look like for me?
Yeah.
And when, especially when you've experienced trauma or you've been experiencing insecurity,
Yep.
you don't have that opportunity. And that's what I want to create. And that's what I want to, I think that's what our goal is with the retreat, is to
Yeah,
create that
absolutely.
space for women to be able to start thinking
Yeah.
about those questions.
Well, and it's kind of like, we're going to pull you out of your real life and you're going to go, hang out with a very small select group of other women. And you're going to have days together where you just get to sit by a body of water and journal through those things or meditate. And I also love that we're going to teach people how to do these things, because I think a lot of times, like you said, we never even gave ourselves the opportunity to ask, what the hell do you want? Much less the time to do it. But then there's different tools that I think we can use that I've discovered that kind of get us there faster, right? So for a lot of people, I love journaling, but I'm a writer. I write books and I love written communication. I'm better at writing an email to someone, and even texting. I'm better written than I am verbally in a lot of cases. So journaling works really, really well for me, but it does not work the same way for other people. Journaling is not a one size fits all and everyone needs to journal. But I think that's what's really great about these retreats, is that we're going to open up the possibilities and it's almost like we're opening up the tool chest, and here you can come pick the 2 or 3 that work really well for you. You can try them on for a little bit. Oh, nope, that one didn't work. Go try on another one. And in the course of a few days, really put together what your tool chest looks like.
Yeah.
So
Or
I
at
envision
least
it anyways.
maybe just start trusting yourself to find your thread, right?
I mean, that's really what it all points to, right? Like
Yeah.
everything, every healing modality, like, it's funny. I've been looking outside of myself for validation for my entire life. And what I have discovered over this past few years is it really was just a learning to trust myself, because it doesn't matter if it's a psychic talking to me, or I'm pulling tarot cards by myself, or I've paid someone to do a tarot reading, or, some energy healer they're all telling me what I already know.
Right.
It's
Right.
just learning to trust yourself.
Right.
Which
Absolutely.
is very difficult, especially for women.
Yep.
So my next question for you is, when you think back to the younger you, if you could go back and give her advice, what advice would you give to her?
Mm. Well, I mean, we've talked about it, right? It's trust yourself. Listen, stop and listen.
Yep.
I just wasted so many years doing what I thought, not wasted. I don't want to say wasted. It wasn't wasted. I didn't allow myself the opportunity to listen to what my innermost thoughts were telling
Yep.
me, but my innermost voice was telling me, which to me, now I believe that that's my higher power, whatever that looks like for
Yeah.
you, whether it's God or
Totally.
something else, right? And I didn't allow that voice space or time. And I wish that I had, because I think I've always had this connection. I've always had this spirituality about myself.
Absolutely.
I just didn't ever believe that I could be successful with it.
Yes.
Or that I could take care of myself and my family the way that they needed to be taken care of, or that I thought I needed to take care of them. And that is entirely not true. And that's what I'm finding now is all of this, my greatest passion can also be my greatest source of income as well.
Yeah, totally.
Which is,
well, and I'm not sure, part of me thinks the reason that there is this myth, because it's totally false, but there is a myth that if you are going down this healing holistic path, if you're a yogi, if you're a healer, or you're a mystic of any sort, that you're destined to poverty, a life of poverty. If you're really being the most spiritual sense of yourself, well, then you must let go of your wealth and riches, and that it's an either or scenario. And I think that part of it is that the society we live in can't function if people are really always following their passion, right? We need the people to be the worker bees. We need the people to go and do all the things and go to school and fill the universities, and teachers need students to teach. And so I think it's, just really an aspect of realizing that society needs us to believe that lie so that it can continue functioning the way it does. And for me to be able to embrace the idea of being able to be financially successful and also help people and also guide people to themselves, like, talk about the most fulfilling way to live your life.
Right. Absolutely. So. Absolutely. And I think, it's actually, it's funny that you bring this up, because it is actually addressed in Reiki teaching that one of the, they now call them grandmasters, but at the time they weren't grandmasters. It was just kind of the big teacher of the, at the whatever time. And the second one was a man named Hayashi. And he opened a free clinic in Japan and would have people come and do Reiki, but people weren't getting better. And not the quality of Reiki, not that anything had changed other than people weren't paying for the services, right?
Oh my gosh. Yes.
So they didn't take it seriously. They didn't do the work that they needed to do in their own lives to see sustained change, right? They became dependent on the process, on the system, the Reiki, it was Reiki's fault when the healing didn't work, and it was Reiki's fault when they had to come back for more. It's like, well, but there's a whole nother part of this that you're missing, which is your responsibility. And so they actually, Reiki it's part of Reiki teaching that there does need to be some kind of an exchange of energy, of services, whether it's interesting or monetary.
I did not know that about Reiki, but it's interesting because I took Tony Robbins and Dean Grazioso, I believe is how you say his last name. They have this combined program that I paid, I don't even know how many hundreds and hundreds of dollars. It might have been thousands of dollars. I'm not really sure. I paid a lot of money to participate in this program. And part of what they said was, well, especially when someone is first venturing out to charge someone for their services, a lot of people, almost all of them, have this block, this resistance, this hesitancy to charge what it actually is valued at, because they're afraid that of all the imposter syndrome bullshit things. But in this class, they teach specifically that people who pay attention, that they will not value the information, the service, whatever it is that you are providing, if they haven't paid for it. There needs to be some sort of investment that feels significant to that person in order for them to be like, yep, gonna actually, I think about this with my online courses, because I do the same thing where I'm like, oh, can someone afford this? I don't know. And the answer is, people will find the money to buy what they want. And if they see value in what is being provided, then they will come up with the money. It's never really a factor of the money and what it costs. It's more about the person who's offering the service getting behind their confidence and knowing that that exchange needs to take place in order for the transformation to happen.
Yep. I agree 100%.
Totally.
Yeah.
Okay, so my next question is, where are you going from here? What is your next step? We talked a little bit about it, but beyond these retreats and the next classes, what is your goal?
Well, so I've got a couple of different ideas running in my head, and I'm not quite sure where they're going to lead, but that's okay.
I love it.
So I am in the process of writing my own teaching manuals for Reiki, Usui Reiki 1, 2, and 3. So I hope to be offering classes.
Fabulous.
I really ideally would like to do them in person. I have some big plans for my property here of trying
Nice.
to create a space, an outdoor space. I really want to work outside as much as possible. I think
Yep.
that's another thing that's really missing, especially right now, is a sense of connection, connection to the earth, connection to each other. I think 2 years of being on Zoom
100%
has led to a sense of disconnect, a sense of artificial connection. And so I would like to ideally create a space where I can have some classes out here. Being in Texas, that might not be too feasible in the summer, but we'll see.
You just have to start your days early.
I know, 5 o'clock, anyone? And then I'm going to start this food forest, this food medicine. Food sovereignty is really important to me. And I do have some plans. I would like to start teaching kids, I think, how to plant food. There's a place called Soulfire Farm in New York that teaches, has classes for people to come learn how to plant. And they actually will bring, I think, if I'm not mixing my places, they will come build like a food planter box in your backyard or in your neighborhood.
Oh, awesome.
So that the kids who have taken these classes at Soulfire can then come and grow their food, grow their own food for their neighborhood, for their block, for their apartment. And it's low income. I really would like to work with kids that wouldn't normally get that opportunity.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So yeah, I'm kind of, thinking about that. That's running around in my head. I don't know.
I love it. I love it. I do the same thing. I'm like, I want to do this, and this is my next program, and how about this book? And I'll get to it all eventually.
Yeah.
One little
we'll
baby
just see
step
which
at
one
a time.
comes first. I don't know.
Exactly. Okay. So my last question for you is, how can people find you? I will obviously include all the links in the show notes, but if they're just listening and driving, how can they find you?
So I am on the Facebooks. You can find me at Kitt McKillop. I think it's Kitt McKillop, Reiki Practitioner. My website is just kittmckillop.com. And I'm on Instagram as Midnight Herb on Instagram. I think that's the only one that's like that. My sister created that one.
It's beautiful, actually. Your sister does such an amazing job that she has totally crafted this beautiful Instagram. So I love what you've done on Instagram, or what she's done for you, or what you've done together, whichever.
Well, I have to say, I did take it over from her, but I do not post as often as I should. It's one of those things that I just forget about it, and then all of a sudden realize, oh gosh, it's been 2 weeks. So I'm not that consistent, but I'm working on it. I'm trying.
I also have taken so many courses and classes and certifications and blah, 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 blah. And there's so many shoulds and guidance. And what I discovered in all of my learning on how to be an entrepreneur, spiritual entrepreneur, whatever you want to call this thing that I'm doing, what I discovered is you could ask 5 people what you should do on Instagram, and you will get 5 different recommendations. Absolutely. And at the end of the day, it again comes back to trusting yourself. I have discovered it doesn't really matter. You can improve engagement and all the things. And we know that, hashtags can be helpful here, but I think what matters more than the tactic that you are using is the energy behind what you're doing.
That's exactly what I was going to say. I feel I have decided, my sister is probably going to listen to this and go, oh gosh, Kitt, why'd you say that? I have decided that I don't really want to share anything unless it's coming from my heart, unless I have something meaningful to say, unless, and so that's kind of how I've taken it. Like I'm trying to start writing more regularly on my blog, and I have like 3 or 4 different blog posts that I've started and then just stopped and walked away from. So
I do the same
it's
thing.
going to take what it takes, right? I mean,
yes. Yes. So I'll tell you, I started using Later to schedule my posts because I didn't want to be tied to posting certain in the moment posting. I wanted to be in the moment when I am out. I want to be able to just take pictures, enjoy my kids, be at the swimming pool.
Right.
And so what helps me is to come back and wait for those moments of creative inspiration. And then I will sit down and I will use the photos that I had taken while I was in the moment. And then I set down my phone and then I can schedule it all out. And that to me feels more authentic and has helped me kind of be consistent, like they say, the infamous they, on what you should do to be, out there in social media. But for me, it really was just like, how do I balance what I want to be visual? I want to get nobody knows I can help them if they don't hear me say I can help you. So I have to be able to do those things, but also do it in a way that felt authentic and not forced. And I wanted it to be genuine.
Right. No, exactly. There's a balance.
There is a balance with everything. And I think everyone's balance looks different. And that's where coming back to your own gut, trusting yourself becomes really important to know how you feel the most grounded, what that balance looks like for you, and to fucking ignore what everybody else says.
Agreed. 100%.
And with that last F-bomb, I think we have had a great conversation.
We did.
Thank you. Thank you for joining me. I hope you'll come back to talk with me soon. And I can't wait for us to host this first retreat together.
I can't wait either. It's going to be phenomenal.
It is. It is indeed. Okay, listen. Are you struggling to find what your true purpose really is? You should try journaling. At the very least, it will get you to a better feeling place than where you are right now. I've created a set of journal prompts to get you on your way to discovering who you truly are and where you want to go from here. My free download is called Journal Yourself to Joy, and it's available at shaunalee.com under free stuff. These are my tried and true journal prompts that will raise your energy, increase your positivity, and brighten your day. Download yours today.